Hey there, Desiree. Not sure if you can hear me, but we'll see how it goes. Haven't done one of these in a little while, so bear with me. There's like new features since I even logged in last on the restream. I got started just because I was a little nervous coming on because I hadn't done one of these, and I can show you the layout that I did on my lunch break. It was just done with brush and pencil real quick. And then this is me filling it in as I go. The focus is being a little weird, so I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. It's a commission for a fella who commissioned it a while ago, but I've just been so busy. I've been behind on all private commissions, as per usual, unfortunately, as of late. Used to be able to get these things fired out real quick. Pandemic hits, work is what it is, and I'm just having to constantly pivot and move and change things around, but we're getting back on top of things. I just received word that, like, if you're one of the folks that backed the Ironface Kickstarter, that those books are at the press. So it was funny. I was talking to the guys about, I have to obviously sign and sketch on a bunch of the books. We were actually comparing the price of shipping the books to me and then to the rewards people versus just a flight for me down to where their studio is. And it wasn't that different. I'll put it that way. Yeah, the focus is being weird. Sorry about that. I'll try to stay on top of it. Like, it'll look fine, but it won't stay there. Like, it keeps trying to autofocus and it keeps getting out of sorts. What's news since we've talked? My cat's on medication now. Something for his liver. He does not like taking pills. Before I started this, I had to help my wife get the cat out from under the bed because he knew it was pill time. Which was less than fun. Why does it do that? Is it because I'm shaking? But obviously, this is Tokka and Rahzar from TMNT2. That's the one with Vanilla Ice in it, and Kino for those that don't remember that fine feature film. I was reminded by my folks that it was my brother that had to go see that movie on opening day because there was some figure or toy that he wanted that if you went to the movie opening day and had a ticket to opening day, like, you could buy some figure, I guess. I'm assuming that figure is worth money. I'm sure it was played with in pools and the ocean and other things. Yeah, Kitty's, he's old. He's 15 now. Let's focus. Do a better job. Probably need to buy a new camera. But there were versions of these characters that apparently showed up in the book, the IDW TMNT books, but to me they looked less interesting to draw. I hope that the gentleman who commissioned this doesn't mind, because turtle fans can be very specific, but I don't recall there being a specific charge for it. Had to be one of the versions. Hey, Allison. Thanks everybody for popping in. I know it's been a million years since I've done one of these, so thank you for coming by and hanging out for a little bit. Just had so much work that I can't like talk about or show off that it's been hard to make time to do these, but since I have some commissions that I need to get done, it's probably a good thing, as long as the commissioner's okay with it. Sometimes they're presents or gifts or whatnot, so sometimes it's not okay. I did check with the fella that commissioned this beforehand, and he said it was fine. With characters like this, one of the things I do notice about my drawing is that I see some of the influences of like the Jim Henson stuff on my structural drawing, because the first thing I thought of when I look at these characters for the first time in a long time was that the snapping turtle, Tokka, looks a lot like one of the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. I don't know if anybody ever noticed that or cared to notice it, but I could see the structural relationship with that front bill. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed it, but like this front bill and the way it connects to the head and then the big round eyes. I don't know. To me, it just screams like some of that earlier Henson stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's what I see when I look at this. I see the Dark Crystal bad guys. The other thing that's tough about these characters that as I was looking at them is the scale. They're supposed to be like much larger than, the Ninja Turtles themselves. And the only way to get the scale is to put something else in the image. And I don't know. I've been overdoing it on these commissions. Like I'll spend a week on one of like every night. Especially these color ones, they just kill me. I have to fix this joint. I got lazy on it on the sketch. Just because it's just a sketch. That's the elbow. The forearm comes up to here. If you want to see a wider shot, raise up the camera. You can see here's both characters. Rahzar and Tokka. I don't know, it's just tough for me to get going on sketches for characters that, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about or drawing. When I do draw them, I either fight with it for days or I just can't just figure out the shapes. Like I posted a comment this afternoon. It was how the shapes interlock with one another. Because you'll see that the snapping turtle has this like giant shell. It has like these huge spikes on it that go from like small and then they taper to like larger and then they go back to small here. And I actually have to fix this arc. This arc is wrong because I was being lazy. That's not true. It was my lunch break. I was working through my lunch break, so I'll cut myself a little bit of a break there. One thing, if you've noticed about my work lately, is that I've been adding a lot more heavy shadows to things. And it comes from a place of wanting a more complete feeling image. And also better lighting in my ink work has definitely helped my coloring, if that makes sense. I don't have to try to do as much heavy lifting in the coloring, and that helps me because I am a average colorist, I would say. I'll give myself that much. There are a couple of colorists that might be watching that would say this is my coloring is somewhere between awful and piss poor, but you know, I feel like being nice today. Stuff that people used to ask me about before the pandemic. Well, I finally saw some of these comic movies that people were all passionate about beforehand. I saw the both Captain Marvel movies, or Shazam and Captain Marvel. What else did I see? I still have not seen the last Star Wars movie. I've been watching like Dennis Hopper movies and different directors, working my way through various directors. There's a movie called the last movie that Dennis Hopper directed that I'm trying to track down a copy of. Watch some Robert Altman movies. Um, Watched a bunch of Werner Herzog movies. They added a bunch of them to Prime for free, and my elbow's just wrong. Can't even fake it. Fix the muscles. And then you get the overlap that is supposed to be how it looks. And I gotta fix the bandages, which need to go up. Actually, need to go up the arm a little bit more. I have a Mandalorian mask with Herzog asking to see the child. Land of the Dead, yeah, I've seen that. I've been looking for the movies, a lot of movies that he directed too. Some of them have been put out by the Criterion Collection, and others are like out of print DVDs from the early point, or DVDs were like being thrown in bins at like Walmart and stuff. That's better. Still need to tighten up this part. I'm just penciling tonight because I'm going to need to tighten up this drawing before I ink it, and then I'll watercolor it, and hopefully I don't kill it. Yeah, one of the things I always get a kick out of is, you know, people are like, who would you want to narrate something for you? And everybody usually says Morgan Freeman, but I would also add Werner Herzog to that list. I watched My Best Friend. That was the story of him and the Klaus Kinski, they did the remake of Nosferatu together. They did what is it, Wrath of God. They did a number of projects together, and this was about their time working together. It was interesting. It was. I saw some parallels with some comic folks in that. head damage. It's one of the reasons I wanted to slow down in pencil. Yeah, Patrick Warburton. Yes, yep. I'm pronouncing it wrong, but yeah. Just really engaging movies. I have not seen Fitzcarraldo yet. Gilbert Gottfried, yep. Really depends on the mood, I guess, that you want to set for having things narrated. Patrick Warburton is a good one. I got to meet him for the first time at Rhode Island Comic Con last year. We all did a panel together with. I think it's on. I think it's on Prime. I think I have it saved as one of my movies to watch. I watched Casper Hauser. That was another one. Happy People. They just put a bunch of his movies on there, and I was like, well, let's take the dive. I don't know if folks know, but Jesse in the chat there that mentioned Gilbert Gottfried's a darn good artist himself, and he's been helping me out with Land Flats, and he has a variant cover for Ironface 1 on its way. I don't know if you're around, but I did. I talked to Dave and everybody, and the book is at the press, so copies are happening. We had to help them with some of the like barcodes and that kind of stuff. All right, well, one of the things that I'm trying to get here is some scale, which is tough. This is a cast shadow from his head coming forward where you can see some of the back shell. My light source for this is actually going to be behind him, right up here. Okay, cool. Glad he reached out to you. I know it's been a little slow here the last mile or so, but I know the printer they're working with, and they're going to look terrific. The books will look great. The printer they're working with is actually a printer I found years ago, and if you ever picked up any of my self-published little books that I did right out of college, they were all printed there, and they'll be printing some of my Helena stuff coming up, which I think I'll be ordering those on Friday. I had to wait till I got another paycheck to take care of some bills before I could order print comics, but I'm flying on issue 2. I was just working on a prelim before I came on here. Here's page 21 of the next issue. These are those characters that I said they'll be showing up. And this is Helena running into them for the first time. And I came up with a really fun storytelling mechanism to how they run into each other and what makes Helena discover them. And I've got a long blog post that I wrote about some of the particulars of this story that are important to me. And has to do with a friend of mine that passed away named Rich Buckler. If you are aware of his work, he did work for all the major companies, and he did a drawing of my character Helena a few years ago, and we were friends. And some of this story comes from a conversation we had over dinner once, and none of the ideas of the story are from Rich. It was just like a what if. What would you do if you had the chance to do X, Y, or Z? And one thing I have been backing more and more Kickstarters lately through the pandemic to help out my buds. And I got this the other day from Mr. Campana. nice sketch cover for his Parker Reef. And a couple weeks back, I got this from my buddy George. People making some really cool stuff. And I love independent comics, and to the point where honestly I don't read that many mainstream comics right now. The most mainstream thing that I was shocked that I enjoyed, I picked up a sketch cover of Batman Catwoman #1, and I bought it to do the sketch cover and just sell a sketch cover, but I always read them first, because that's what I do. And I liked it. I actually thought it was quite good. So I picked up, the next 2 issues. So I'll probably pick up some more. It's been interesting. It's very much like a new 90s animated Batman story. Oops. Focus. There we go. Back in focus. Mostly in focus. The other thing I noticed about these characters that I didn't notice before was just how cartoonish they looked. And I'm sure that's why when they adapted them for the IDW comic, that they made them more grotesque and large. Like they're gigantic. They're like stories tall. Like they're not kaiju big, but they're like really big. I also noticed that the bad guys have 4 fingers, and the turtles have 3 in the movie. Thanks very much, Jesse. Have a good night, man. Thanks for popping in. I'll be in touch with you soon. Like I said, Jesse does some very nice work, so he'll have a custom cover that he'll have at his convention appearances coming up. So that's cool. Very, very cool. All right, now I think one of the hardest parts about this design wasn't really the hands. And once I figured out the face was basically a Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, I kind of got that down. Now the other character, Rahzar, is like, the face is all over the place in the design to me. But we'll see what happens when we get there. My electric eraser. I've been using these lately for my sketches. Zig marker pens. I thought you could refill them, but they were solid plastic when I got them. But I'm going to try to crack it open and see if I can refill it. Because I've been using these refillable brush pens, and they have just been a godsend. The Sable ones are just freaking great. Now I do wonder why they designed like these tubes, like to explain where the spikes come out of, but it was the 90s. Everything had spikes, spiked hair, spiked everything. And if we remember our light sources here, once we get these structures, I'll show you how I taper spotted black shadows around a form. It's one of those things that somebody should teach people in school, or in a book, but they don't. And I've been doing very aggressive shadow work. See, and now we have to start to shrink them more because they get further away quick. Now you can see the this is the one that's like closest to the viewer, and it's the only one where you can see both sides of this like tube that'll have a big spike coming out the back. And like I said, our light source is here, and very much at the top you'll have the smallest drop shadow. And rather than a cast shadow, what I've been doing lately is having the shadow come from the nearest foreground element towards the light source, which it's a thing that I hadn't seen really anybody do. And I just came across it one day and I started using it on the stuff I was doing with Jeff on Space Frog. I thought I had something. And I again, when I haven't seen somebody do it, that doesn't mean no one's done it. It just means that it's not a prominent technique in our business. Okay, we'll go here about a third of the way, about a third of the way, about half the way, half the way, 2/3, 2/3, 2/3. And then I think the rest of the way I'm going to completely black it out and maybe give a little bit of an edge, but I'm really enjoying completely blacking stuff out. I don't know what it is, just lately I've enjoyed having stuff going in and out of the darker spaces on the positive space, you know. It's a different way to deconstruct some of the stuff, and it makes more sense to me than dropping lines. Adding fill makes more sense to me. Six people in today. Thanks for popping in. Even if it's just as you scroll by and you had nothing better to do, you needed to waste a few minutes. And you can see as I fill these that it'll create the depth that I'm looking for. These I kind of go by the gut, the little ridges. Some of them have a little bit more shadow than others just because they're not uniform. They have an organic shape to them. I actually think I need to shrink this shadow a little bit. Just move it off center some because it looks too uniform. If you have things that are too plumb, too centered, it can be really... Oh, well, thanks for coming in, Desiree. I mean, I don't know. Do we make Tuesdays the day for these? I don't know. I should make them a regular thing. There's no reason not to. I draw every day after dinner. It's just whether or not what I'm working on I have permission to show people. I did finish another Tick story recently. This one was actually written by Benito Sereno. He wrote a bunch of the last Tick ongoing and some of the one-shots and stuff before that. And he wrote a really excellent script. It was fun to work on. As with all things NEC, I have no idea when it's coming out. So, oh, thanks, Marlon. Yeah, this is your piece. So, working on it. Want it to be real textured. You can see the whole layout that we did earlier. I'm gonna fix his face some. I just couldn't figure out the shapes. It was tough shapes. The pencils are a little loose, but that's because I'm inking it myself, so we don't got to worry about me explaining to someone what should be inked and failing to do that, which that would be on me. Some makers like a loose pencil to work from. Others want it to be, as tight as possible so that it's as succinct and clear as possible. But you can see, and I'm not sure how much detail I'm going to add to the spikes, just because I know when I color it, some of that stuff is going to be in there. Like I said, I saw this movie in the theater. I was there because my brother wanted some action figure. They gave us a poster, which I believe is on my childhood bedroom wall at my parents' house still. Let's see if we can fix this thumb. I didn't draw this thumb very well. I couldn't come up with like a big action scene, so I just wanted a nice composition where you get both full figures. And I remember them coming out of the junkyard. Um, they were like I think I read somewhere that they wanted to use Bebop and Rocksteady, but Peter and Kevin were involved and weren't sure that they wanted the lighter tone to use those characters, or they had plans for those characters in some other form. And so they created Tokka and Rahzar for the second film in their place. I mean, you can obviously see the similarities. I do remember when I watched this movie that I was a kid, so I was like, oh man, there's a new turtle. Is he gonna join the other guys? Is he gonna be hanging out with Leonardo? Which of course, he's the bad guy, so they had to. At that time in movies, they had this inability to have villains around for more than one movie. You look at Batman, you look at. I think the only recurring villain from like those fantasy action movies when I was a kid was Lex Luthor. Oh, and Darth Vader. But yeah, if you looked at like the Phantom movie, the Shadow, like all these movies, they killed off the main bad guy in the first movie. Which is why I'm always skeptical when I hear that, oh, they had plans for a sequel right away. Hey Kevin, no worries. We're just hanging out, doing some sketching. I'm working on this Turtles villains from the movie I saw when I was a wee lad. I'm gonna mute the knee pads a little bit. I was surprised that he had the knee pads in the movie. I had no memory of that. When I was looking for reference, it was interesting that like the best pictures that I could find were of toys, like really fancy toys. Like people took high-res pictures of them, so I was able to look at those and get a better understanding as to what the heck was going on with that. Yeah, you're right, Marlon. You can't really have one without the other, you know. I always like the fact that they carried around a boombox. That was the thing when, you know, that was before all your music was on your phone. Yeah, those the photos of those toys were crazy. They were, you know, high res. I could zoom in and look at the faces real up close. It was very helpful. The toys are crazy that they're making these days. Like just the level of detail, you know, compared to the stuff, you know, when I was a kid. I still have my Leo here, my original Leo. This was bought at probably Kmart or Hills department store, maybe. I don't know, but very different from the toys you see them making now. That one definitely still has sand in it from a few rounds in the sandbox when I was a kid. Might be beach sand. That's true. All right, you see this muscle right here? Our light source, like I said, is up over that way. There's going to be a little bit of a cast shadow here just to create separation. See that little bubble? Okay. Creates more separation between the leg and the thigh here. But because it's so far down, I have this on the next muscle coming towards the light source. And then I add my little bit of feathering on the end of it on smooth surfaces. Absolutely, Douglas. Totally agree. The gear, I mean, all the little weapons and some of the pictures I saw, it looked like they either had a set or built something for them to be on, and it was it looked like a shot out of like if they did a stop motion movie. I know they only do those if it's like a you know, part of the kitschiness. You know, I don't know. Do people still use that word? I just remember the Wes Anderson stop motion movies or Tim Burton stop motion movies. If it's like part of an artist's thing, seems to be the only way we get any stop motion anymore. Yeah, I totally agree, Kevin. I mean, it's way different than the old GI Joes or whatever. I mean, I couldn't remember what these characters look like at all. I actually need this leg. See, his balance point is off. If his leg comes forward here, I'd have to move this one further back. Like I'd have to put his knee here and here because if you follow your balance points, like right here in the middle of the foot is under the shoulder. So we need to have the shoulder is here. His other balance point is right there. So what we need to do is make sure that when we put the foot in, that it's over there. And it actually needs to be facing out at probably a 30-degree or 40-degree angle. Um, Learning balance points is like really important to showing weight on figures. Like it is drastically important because that's what happens when you get like a pinup where a figure looks like it's floating. and doesn't have any gravity to it. That's one of the things I notice a lot in some of the newer comics I've been reading lately. And you can also notice when people are just tracing over the photos to get the poses um, based on the inconsistency of the proportions from page to page. I'm not saying I nail my proportions. I mean, geez, just look at how much I vary the tick. Like I change its size depending on the mood in the script. But it's something I've noticed reading new comics, new mainstream comics, not the fantastic independent comics that I can't get enough of, and I have to be careful to not spend too much money on Kickstarter these days. It's very easy to get caught up in those because there's just a lot of really interesting, cool stuff coming out that I used to pick up directly from people at cons, and now I just order them online. But conventions are starting again, and looks like the first one will be Gem City in Ohio. Although I may be doing a signing at New England Comics. I will post if that comes to fruition. We were talking about doing, since there was no free comic book day last year, we were talking about doing a separate event for last year's books because they did not do a tick book this year. I'm going to raise this shadow up so that there's some overlap. It creates more depth that way if you can have it overlap. But you can see we've got the first one roughed in. I gotta fix that foot because our balance point was messed up. But I think we can save it just because it's at like a 3/4 angle and it's like away from the camera. You're also gonna have a fair amount of shadow. This whole thing actually will be, his leg comes under. If you were to draw his leg, it would be like back here and underneath. And then the back of his ankle would be there. Almost a tangent, but not quite. That's when I'll fudge it a little bit sometimes, like right here, where there's just like a tiny gap. I might just go like this. Because I would rather have a little bit of an exaggeration. It's just so interesting. The work is, I don't know. Desiree, you're one of the good folks, and so's Kevin, and I think everybody in this chat like supports independent artists, and it's really awesome. And I think that you guys recognize that like you get more interesting works. It's not to say that the big two aren't capable of making interesting work or anything like that. It's just that it's not all superheroes. It's not all you know one thing. I backed a romance comic. I mean, I can't wait to read it. It looks very fun. Lots of slice of life stuff, memoirs. I don't know. I see all these articles and things that they say, broad descriptions of comics, and they're really just talking about mainstream comics. There's just so much cool stuff being made by really, really good people. And here's some of that reference I was talking about. Like, these are toys. It's crazy. And here's what I was talking about with the shapes. Like, if you look, his mouth, he kind of has like a beak almost that has hair on it. And then he has a nose on top of it. And then he has these big cheekbones that sweep out. So like his jaw connects like back here, but goes underneath. So like his skull is only like this big. He's got like a tiny little skull. Huge eye sockets, but not big eyes. Desiree, the big battle sequences are coming up in Son of Thrud, which is issue 3. But there is a flashback in issue 2, so I'll get a few of my pals in there. I'll make sure that you get into issue 2. Issue 1, I wanted to just tell a really small story that I could prove that I could still make a whole comic book on my own, and not have editors or publishers telling me when stuff's due or whatever. And now that that's done, and I'm on to issue 2 and 3. I actually ran into an issue with issue 2 because the story got a little big, and it became 2 issues worth of content. And I was debating on whether or not to do 1 issue double-sized or 2 issues. And then I was thinking, like, what would I prefer to read? I'd rather that out of nowhere, a book that I like has a double issue. Like, I think that that's way better than splitting it up into 2 issues. Now, a publisher would want to split it up and get as many issues out as quickly as possible, but I have the luxury of not having a publisher on it. So I get to make the call, and what I want to do is I would want to read a double-sized issue. So issue 2 is double-sized. I have a potential fantastic cover artist for issue 2. And actually, Douglas did a variant cover for issue 1. If you have been following the threads and stuff, he's the artist that said, hey, I'll do 20 copies with a variant cover that he's already done the work for. And I don't know if he sold it, but he had an NFT of that artwork available if you're one of the folks that collects those. And Douglas, I completely agree. Tangents, like when I see them, if they make it through to the ink stage, I can't. I just can't. I'll blow it up. I'll start over. I'll do whatever I have to do to fix the damn thing. Sometimes I'll wait until it's, I can wait till I'm coloring and I can fix it, redraw it digitally. But then I have the original to torture myself with for time infinitum. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I've got 22 pages thumbed out. I've got 8 pages drawn. And my pal Jesse is going to be laying the flats on it, so we'll get rolling again. I actually did 1 page that was kind of fun. I don't know if you remember these. In the back of old comics, they used to do like fruit pie ads. I actually did a fruit pie ad for Helena, except it's newt pies. Why did I do that? Because I've read too many damn comic books. Oh man, I didn't realize that like that stuff connected. Jeez. It's such a strange design. Douglas, I saw that Dune cover. That looked really awesome. I'm a huge fan of Frank Herbert science fiction, and I always tell folks that if they're gonna, and that's actually the first movie that I have on my calendar of like I have to go see it because I did like the Blade Runner sequel. I was in the minority. I know that, but I thought it was highly enjoyable. Yeah, those fruit pie ads are awesome. At least I enjoy them. And there's actually one that was drawn by Frank Miller. There was Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and they paid these artists to do these fruit pie ads, which I find fascinating. Dick Giordano did a bunch of them. Yeah, it looked good. I liked it. And it's funny, like the gag you did. There is a scene in the David Lynch movie that David Lynch is in, where he plays the pilot of one of the scout ships for the spice miners, and yeah, they like go pick up a bunch of miners before the worms eat them. And then the eyebrows basically touch. That's so weird. I'm gonna have to work on this face offline, just because it's so weird to me. Like, I think the mouth is even bigger than I'm drawing it. Like, I think it goes all the way back here. And then it ends up being like this. I'm just gonna blow it up. Just not happy with it. Awful. Yeah, the selling of grit was just that was another one of those things that. Does anybody know anyone that did that? Like, I know people that took the art test in comics, but I don't know anyone that sold grit. Like, and I actually know people that sent away for the artist kits too. And I knew a guy that had the backyard submarine. I'm using my blue pencil because I need to figure out these damn shapes. I actually think it's like a Spider-Man eye. Oh, sorry, I bumped the camera. Oh, so you took the art test too. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just it was a different thing. Like I always fascinated by the things in comics other than just comics. It goes like this. Comes forward. It actually comes in front of the mouth. Oh, that's awesome. You ordered the fishing tackle box? That is so awesome. Was it and I do know someone that ordered the bucket of soldiers, the bucket of army men. That was actually Bob, the art director at NEC. He ordered the bucket of army men. Figuring out this guy's face has been a challenge. I actually worked on this during the day a little bit, like I said, when I was on my lunch break, but it was just these shapes are so weird. Like I get that his jaw comes down and forward. When I look at reference, I don't copy the photo. I'm just looking for notes. I know that's difficult to translate, but like basically the how the blocks fit together from whatever angle I'm going from. I don't look at the finish. I don't look at the let's see how I did. Let's see if I can make this work. I do want to shrink the eyes a little bit so that he looks a little more evil. The eyes are huge in the toy. It's very exaggerated. Yeah, I'm really glad you like those. My parents and I have been going there since my brother went to Eastern Nazarene College, which is in Quincy. You know, we're both getting up there, so it was a little while ago, but yeah. Since he was going to school there, we've been going to Tony's. And when he first looked at schools, I came with back. We were living in Ohio. And I rode along and came out to the East Coast with him because they knew, you know, might as well look and see if he sees anything that for when he is wanting to go to college, if he chooses to go to college, which I did, and I did come out east. I went to the New England Comics in Quincy the first time I went to Quincy, and I met Tom, and I bought, what did I buy there? I bought Strange Tales, the second appearance of Doctor Strange, and it was cheap. I still have it. It's beat to hell. But yeah, I gotta fix his eyebrows. It's so weird that his brows almost touched me, and then you have like, I bet in person this thing looks so fake. But obviously the person making it knew it was going to be filmed, and when you film it, it looked pretty darn cool. Okay. Other work stuff that has been going on. I did try out for a book and not get it. Well, hey, it happens. Happens to the best of us. Yeah, I had a stretch there where it was just like one thing after another was not working how I would have rather it had worked. I had a chance to do a Red Sonja cover, but the person who was going to do it took too long to approve stuff. So, yeah, those are old and some of them are really badly drawn, but I accept the work because I was very enthusiastic, and that was my honest to goodness at that moment best I could do. And that first Helena book that I did years ago, I took to my first New York Comic Cons and had many an editor ream me out for sometimes conflicting things, sometimes um, different things. But I learned a ton, and who were some of the people that reviewed it? The guy that runs Boom saw it. Um, Bobby saw it. Bobby Curnow. Who else saw it? Keith Van Wormer. Guy did Vampirella and a bunch of other stuff for like Harris. The Rook. He did The Rook, which was a pretty cool book. Um, but yeah, he gave me a terrific, in-depth, complete reaming, which I needed, and I've spent the rest of my days. The one thing that they all said was like, just do one thing, do one discipline, just pencil. And I honestly don't believe I would have ever gotten a single job if I just penciled. It looks okay. Now, when I look at this, oh, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I was at the time very proud of it when I finished it. I showed it to as many people as I could, and it got me some jobs. It did. It was flawed, but it was enthusiastic, and it was it was made out of love for doing it, which the current Helena is too, and that's one of the things I'm really enjoying about drawing it. I work on it when after a long day, I can still work on those pages and feel like I have something left in the tank. But keep chopping this thing down. I'm gonna have to work on the lighting on this face. Just because I think I just got the shapes to work okay. Actually, I think part of this ear is gonna be completely blacked out. The new artists that just do digital, that's alarming to me. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many tools and you're able to do it so much faster. I did a couple of jobs completely digital actually for both of the books I drew for the Boston Red Sox. I did 100% digital because I had to pencil, ink, and color the entire book in under a month. And I was able to do it, which is insane. I basically did layouts digitally and then I went straight to inking digitally, and I was able to like control Z my way through like fixing the inks rather than penciling it. See, like stuff like this, I would never know what his little emblem looks like, so. And look, some of the folks that do all digital can really draw circles, around me and many other artists. And there are some folks that use like the crutches to a fault, and you know, because in like those Wally comics, if I needed to draw like the outfield wall in left center field, um, I was tracing a picture on some of that stuff just because it had to be done so quickly. I would take a screenshot of, Fenway Park and I would turn it into a cartoon. I would by drawing it, but like tracing over the structure. I did some freehand ones early on, and they were like, no, 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 it has to be exactly like this. And it was just so much faster, and they were happier. So I ended up tracing like almost all the backgrounds in the Wally comics. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting to wonder what that'll do to the original art market. Like, will demand go down because people don't do it over time? I mean, I feel like the demand will go up initially because there's less supply, but I wonder if people will care about original artwork. The shoulder's effed up, so is this one. If they aren't making it, like if it's long enough to where it's not a thing that's made anymore. I don't know. I started off all traditional, so it's been one of my edicts to not get left behind and try to learn as much about the digital stuff and new tools as I can as I go along. I might not be any good at some of them, but I have to at least know their function and their possibilities. That's right. We will get all of the Aquaman pages. Oh, I was looking at one the other day that you mentioned Steve Epting. I was looking at those pages on Anthony's website. He's got some real nice ones. Like, how am I supposed to, this looks like the grill to an antique car to me. And maybe that's what it is. Like, I can't see what that says, but to me, there's just not enough depth on this face or this body. I'll end up redrawing a chunk of this before I ink it. Hopefully I can do it without convincing myself I have to lightbox it over to a new board. See, to me, this is just flat looking. I think I'm going to have to move his hand a little bit forward so that it is in front of this armor, so that it has an extra layer, because right now his hand is only in front of his leg. Yeah. And I think we're going to have a cast shadow here. Again, just pushing that back and bringing this forward. I think the one thing I really don't like about it, the design, is that it is really just a giant mask on top of it, instead of feeling like a living creature. Yeah, you're right, Kevin. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it looks like the front of a car. I wonder if that's what they meant. I bet a Turtle superfan could tell me. They know everything. They really do. In a good way. I mean that in a good way. Not disparaging. Expertise has saved my butt multiple times. Right now I'm kind of roughing it in. I'm going to have to work on the depth situation on this thing. Also, I'm starting to get tired. But let's keep roughing it in, and that way I can just go back in and refine rather than, I think, putting this hand so that it's in front of. Four fingers on the bad guys, three fingers on the good guys. I don't go quite as far with the layering as like Todd McFarlane talks about. I think as long as you create enough separation between your foreground and your background elements that I'm wondering if the opposite would be better. A lot of this is going to be blacked out. And then if you see, I have behind here his other hand, like holding like a busted 2x4. I think he had a trash can shield at one point in the movie, but I think it was only briefly, so don't want to put something that's not canon. I don't know. I know this movie got a lot of flack over the years, but when I was, I don't know, it was 1990, 91, when I was 5, 6, I thought it was fun. So I have some nostalgia for the film. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to where the screen is versus where I'm working. This is pretty much just a straightforward hand. We also have to make sure that the thickness of these fingers here scales with these here, because these are actually a little closer, so I'm going to have to make this hand a little bigger. Some of the stuff I can think of intuitively, other times talking it out actually does help. So but it rained here today, but it was good because it cooled things down. We've definitely caught up on our rain. Let's see, to me, I am going to bring the art all the way to the edge, so you're going to have, like, this will all be blacked out. So we do need to be conscious of what we're going to be bringing forward and pushing back. Some things I do like to just disappear, like you'll probably see a cast shadow from this. And what that'll do is it'll make your eye connect the arm with the shoulder. So I need to create a good breaking point with that shoulder piece. But when you knock it out and you see that, you know, this back here is all black and right here the shadow is black, you will see that it just makes a more dynamic image. Hey, thanks, Kevin. I'm probably not going to be on much longer myself, so good luck with cutting the grass, and thanks again for popping in. I'll talk to you soon. But yeah, I mean, why don't we wrap it up, because I'm not going to be able to finish this, and I'm getting tired. Let's take a wide look. Let's get the lights on. Raise up the camera some so you can see more of the whole thing. That's where we're at. For the Tokka and Rahzar commission. It's on an 11 by 14 board. This is the rest of the layout. You see that there's just a lot of squiggles, but I know what it is. It's mostly them coming out of like the trash yard. Thank you, Douglas. I'll try to get the pencils posted, and then I got to ink and color this one. And I don't know. I lost my mind in wanting to do color commissions. They just take me so long. Thanks everybody for coming by, and yeah, until the next one. Hope everyone has a good night.